A growing concern for parents across the U.S. is the impact of their child's interactions with screens. A local nonprofit is stepping in to help. Recovery Cafe, they're best known for serving people who are struggling with substance use and mental health challenges. But this fall, they're tackling screen addiction with a series of webinars. I spoke with Kelly Tansing of Mindful Media, who will be kicking off the series. So nice to talk to you about something that so many of us parents are struggling with right now. It's a tricky issue because screens and screen time has become increasingly essential to kids for learning. It's also been a main source of pandemic socialization. So how can you tell if your situation has gone from what has now become normal to a problem?
That's a tricky one, Amity. It's something a lot of parents have been struggling with, especially recently with the pandemic. But there's some really clear signs that kids can show if screen time use has become a problem in the family. And some of those around their behaviors that you'll see, such as they are not showing a willingness to turn off their screens when their screens are off. They just want to get back on. They trying to get around the rules to get on the screens again, and they're unable to focus on other tasks. There's also some other clear signs, which could be around their behavior, which is if they're showing agitation, frustration, they're angry at not being allowed to be on the screen. And then there's something to look at in your family history too. Some kids, they have a family history of problems with addiction. And these are the kids that you really want the warning lights to go off if you're seeing these behaviors, because if there's a history of addiction in the family, it is possible that your child could be displaying these behaviors.
So how do you start this conversation with your child? I mean, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
No, and no one likes to be confronted about having a problem. So it can be quite tricky. Just remember that threatening to cut them off or taking away their device can cause a lot of distress in children and anyone struggling with an addiction. So you need to take an approach that shows empathy. And when you do this, you need to approach it in a way that shows it as a family issue and allows you learn about the situation, why they might be using the device, try and set appropriate boundaries with them first and see if that can work, getting them on board to work with you as a team.
Now, in my house, we set limits, we set time limits. Is that something that will help, or can screen addiction happen no matter the amount of time you're on the screen?
Definitely setting limits helps, because your child needs to turn off the device. However, if a child is really wanting to get on a device and you set limits, most children, especially the older they get, can find ways around that. So you may set these limits and they might sign into your device later on when you're not around. It might be snuck into their room. Their friends are so smart as they are, and they might find a way around the screen limits that you set. So you really, even if you set these limits and you think they're abiding by them, you need to hone in on where these devices are and make sure they're living in their homes when they're not in use.
Giving these series of webinars that are going to focus on specific age groups, which I think is brilliant because it's obviously not a one-size-fits-all issue.
The first round is 4th through 6th grade, and we've done this in a purposeful way because parents of 4th through 6th graders, they're usually starting to get more independence on tech, but they haven't been given the full range yet. So the parents are still able to control what's going on and have a lot more conversations with their parents. So this conversation for us is about, when we're chatting with parents, how to set these initial boundaries that are coming in, but also for parents, how to evaluate the apps and the games that kids are wanting to play on so that they have a clear understanding of what the kids are using, but also an encouragement of conversations to have, and having those while kids are still amenable to having conversations with you. As when they get older, it's a lot harder to have those conversations.
That's really a good point. Later in the series, though, you're going to be back with some tips for older kids, even if, communicating with them is sometimes hard. You've got tips for that, right?
Yes, that's right. With the older, we're usually focusing on the middle school range at this point because they're starting to take off with their tech use, and there are some things that you can do, ways that you can evaluate the apps that they're using. But not only that, having more in-depth conversations about how apps and games can make users addicted to them. So it's giving parents some clear insights as to what they can apply to the conversations so that they can talk about how these games are drawing you in, how the apps are keeping you coming back.
Bottom line, if you have one message for parents who are struggling with this right now, what would that be?
It's never too late to educate yourself on how you can talk to your kids about these situations, and that if you feel you need extra help, there is help available, and it's becoming more and more every day.
And again, Kelly is the first speaker in this new online series, Kids and Screens, presented by Recovery Cafe. It all kicks off Wednesday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. And get this, the talks are free of charge, thanks to support from the Snoqualmie tribe. You do need to register, though, so just visit the website on your screen where you can also learn about other events in the series. Maybe it's time to put down that screen yourself and pick up a good old-fashioned book. Coming up, Seattle librarian Misha Stone tells us her must-reads of the season. We'll be right back.
This portion of New Day Northwest is sponsored by Recovery Cafe.